Welcome, I think. Yep, welcome fellow druids. I'm getting a lot of... Don't live my life here. Anyway, we're going to talk a little bit WTC. I'm actually a little bit more delayed on this than I would have expected. First off, our congratulations go to Australia Flamin' Galas for being the second, for winning the event. And this is the first time a country has won it twice, ever. Also of note, in Mark III, Australia has won 2 out of 3. So they seem to have some stuff figured out down there. I believe they were pretty close. I did not, caveat, I've not watched any of the streams really. I was busy during that weekend. And further, I haven't really gone through the videos. I may actually go back and find if there were any circle games, and on I think it's room.pl did the recording. It's Polish, some Polish folks who were the ones responsible for the recording of the event, and I think they've posted all the videos, so I may mute the audio and play it back and give some commentary on what's going on for you guys. Maybe I'll do it live as it's happening, sort of see if I can sort of guess what's going to happen, or maybe I'll watch it and then do it. Don't know when that's going to happen. No guarantees that it will happen, but something I'm considering. So I'm not going to do... this isn't going to be in depth. I'm not really aiming for a really long video here. We talked a little bit before the event on some of the statistics of what was being played. As far as Circle goes, we were pretty grossly 40 Bones of Orboros, 4 Call of the Wild, no other themes seen. The caster breakdown worked to be Kruger 2 21 times, Bradigus 13 times, Baldur 2 4 times, Una 2 twice, Tanith twice, Kaya 2 once, and Wormwood once. I'm not exactly sure. I did see some statistics. I wasn't able to find them on wins, but Circle, percentage-wise, and I don't want to... it's sort of tough to do this sort of show because on one hand, there's a bunch of statistics out there on how different factions performed and whatnot. And so I want to talk about how Circle did at WTC, but then again, I don't want... I've also talked about this on social media, that the statistics coming out of this event, or frankly out of almost any event, are pretty meaningless. Because the way the game is played, it's more about the player and their list and knowing how to play their list in a certain matchups, and then on top of that, in a team event, it's also about what matchups you manage to actually get. So if you can dodge some of the things that are really bad for you and then still execute really well on your plan, or know what your plan should be and then execute it well, you're going to win. And if people are overly prepared for you, or you don't do the things I just described, or there's some bad luck in how your team places stuff, or maybe you get a bad table for your game, for what you need, and so on and so forth, then these percentages don't really mean much. That said, I think Circle was around 3rd or 4th highest in the percentages of wins. That's not too surprising. Poland South, who got 2nd place, featured Tomasz, who played Circle. I think all the Polish teams who did decently well all featured Circle. Again, another thing that's going to skew your percentages, right? Like, teams aren't winning or losing because they have Circle or some other faction. Teams that are winning happen to have factions, right? And when you look at the percentages that way, it skews it a bit. So, anyway, Circle did perform pretty well, as I just described. I'm not surprised. I talked with one person from one of the teams on the way back who told me the Kruger 2 list is better than he thought before having played some of the Europeans, and basically just saying that it was their opinion, although I don't necessarily share this, but it was their opinion that a lot of North America was not playing the list, quote, properly, and that basically it should be a matter of sort of the old circle mentality where you're never really giving up anything and you're taking your opponent's things. I feel like when I've played Kruger 2, that's a little bit of the approach I have taken. But, yeah. So, in short, Circle had a pretty good run. Like I said, some pretty solid statistics on our wins. I wouldn't read too far into it one way or the other. I think this is going to be the last really major event that we see, hopefully, this breakdown of themes. Because, you know, even seemingly doing pretty well, this is kind of depressing. And I do really think if anyone really starts to, you know, so one of the things I want to talk about coming out of this is I still fully believe no one was planning for Kruger. I think some people were expecting Kruger and felt like they would be able to play into it just fine. But I think when the boogeymen were out there, people were trying to learn quickly how to play an Animag, but probably haven't, the numbers show that maybe they didn't really achieve that. Playing into Derp Turtles in, sorry, I should use the real name, Siege Animantraxes in Scorn, playing into Crix, specifically Black Industries, what are a few others? There's some troll stuff that's gotten a little attention, but not that much. I'd say Grimkin actually is another one of those lists, and like the up and coming High Reclaimer list that has the Judicator or Paradjudicators from Protector, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next 6 months, maybe a little more, just based on the change to Reliquary, making the Judicator a very, very powerful piece. So I expect to see more Judicators in the future. We'll probably have a meta discussion at some point, maybe as part of my evaluating where we're at coming out of CID. Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is probably going to be a reasonably short episode. I realize even as I'm talking through here, I didn't really have a whole lot I wanted to throw out. I know somebody asked if I was going to be doing a video on that. Oh, that's a good idea. So here we are. But as I talk through it, I don't think there's too much. You know, like I said, I wanted to congratulate the Australian team, Poland South, for getting second. Tomasz actually is a pretty frequent watcher, and he brought Kruger 2 and Bradigus as he has been, and I think he had a 5-1 record, possibly. I'd have to dig back through. I think it was 5-1. We'll do it live. He won his last round. 1 for 1. I know he lost to JVM. So he's 2 for 2. This page is going very slowly. Yeah, he was the only lost to the US. Let's see, Poland South. Yep, wins there. I know this is very exciting radio. Poland South. Win, and round 1. This will be the hard one because they're not sorted very well. They had Poland go west. Yeah. So it's, yeah, Tomasz went 5-1. So really good showing there from somebody who watches us. There might be a few other Circle players in here who watch the show. I'm not sure. Feel free to hit me up if you want to talk about stuff ever. If you did, and I didn't know. So yeah, very, very happy for him. I know he's been kind of a force to be reckoned with over there in the EU with his Bradigus Kruger. I suspect he'll be switching it up, so look for some exciting stuff from him. But anyways, congrats to them for getting second. Congrats to Australia. Sounds like it was overall a great show. I do really think something just to throw in there sort of as we wrap this episode up. Every year at the WTC, this is usually, in my opinion, the beginning of a meta shift. It happens a few times a year, but pretty pronouncedly it happens now. And there's a few reasons for that. One, there are always lists that seem to perform better than expected. Or even if they were expected to perform well, they do. They perform as expected in some cases. Then there are lists that seem to not live up to the hype. And that can vary because, so I would say that the Gatsby 9 Slayers list fits that bill. The number of people who brought it and the way that it was hyped up, it did have an above 50% win rate, but you would have imagined that to be much higher with the number of people who were confident bringing that into their pairing, and it wasn't. Further, I would say I know some Scorn players were looking at their percentages and not feeling great about it. So, it seems like a lot of people are probably figuring out the battle engines there. Circle's just in the position where there are CIDs coming out, so that's going to change stuff a lot. We're going to see Legion, Animag was brought a lot and performed, so we're going to see more of that. I feel like we're starting to see Trolls dwindle off, and additionally, you get the next thing, which I was going to get at, which is a lot of players leading into WTC have been playing these lists, depending on the country, depending on the player, a lot. I mean, a lot. A guy, and I mentioned Trolls, but a guy like Tim Banky is probably played a couple hundred lists with his pair. Just, he has the time, his, however his life is structured, he has the time and availability to be able to do that. And by the time he's gotten through an event, he needs a change, right? You play a couple hundred lists or a couple hundred games with a list. I don't care how much you love it. Most people are going to at least need a palate cleanser. If not, and I know in his case, he really likes to have another project coming, after WTC. Sometimes this rides out through War Machine Weekend. They're close enough, right? September to, mid-September to November. You've kind of got 6-8 weeks in there. But it's this time of year we see stuff starting to trend in a different direction. You'll have a few CIDs happen. You'll have a few more releases happen. You'll start to see, as the HEC comes around, you're going to start to see that kind of shape up a little bit more as we go into the next year. And then after that, it's going to continue to shape. But and I would say, in my experience, some of the major events will start to show it. LVO is sort of often when things feel like what you're going to be dealing with for the next 6 months. Yeah. So there'll be a little shift here. HEC, LVO will have another bit of a shift. Lock and Load often does, because you can kind of expect that's the stuff that's going to be at some of the summer cons. Things like that. So, but after this, like I said, a lot of the players need something different. A lot of the players are going to feel either more confident or less confident with what they've been playing, or their faction is going to go through CID. So Circle, Scorn, Retribution, I expect to see more of them and going forward. And Protectorate, I would say we're going to start seeing a lot of that stuff evolve, I think, from here. So look at that to happen. Anyways, we're going to wrap this one up. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you have any thoughts on WTC, I'm more than happy to talk about it and how we're going to possibly be evolving moving forward. And as always, thanks for watching.